The following conversation is with Jenny Quiner. Based in Des Moines, Iowa, Jenny is the founder of Dogpatch Urban Gardens, a small scale market garden using organic principles and sustainable methods. As a fellow native of Iowa, I've been a longtime fan and follower of Jenny's work, so I'm absolutely thrilled to have her as a guest on the podcast. During our conversation, we covered Jenny's transition into urban farming, some of the products they grow, some of her favorite crops to grow, as well as the farm's addition of value-added products plus agritourism. I'm Don Davidson. This is the Regenerative Agriculture Club podcast, and please enjoy my conversation with Jenny Quiner. Thanks for listening. We are live. Jenny Quiner, hello and welcome. Thanks for being here with us.
Thanks for having me.
Excellent. Well, we're talking all things Dogpatch Urban Gardens here today, and have a lot I want to cover with you. But I guess, for starters, for our audience, can you just kind of talk about, what was that kind of initial aha inception moment, even before you started to put things into action? Was there a time just like, in your head you're thinking, gosh, this whole urban ag thing may be real and we can have a go at this?
I wish I could have this specific aha moment. And frankly, kind of where this the beginning of the farm stemmed from was I used to teach high school science and at a local high school here in Des Moines, and I taught environmental science and loved the unit on local food. And in my years of teaching, I also had 3 little boys. And so I was just feeling pulled in a different direction. But always knew this local food thing was always in the back of my brain. And as I was exploring new life ventures, the property where our farm is for now came up for sale. And it just kind of snowballed of my husband and I saying, this is in our neighborhood. We could really do some great things for our community. And then it just kind of launched from there. So I don't have the specific aha moment I wish that I could just share to the world.
Got it. And so at that point, what was the year when this was all happening?
Well, let's see. We've been farming for 6 years. So we purchased the land in fall of 2015, and then spring of 2016 was our first grow season.
Got it. And within the local Des Moines community, were there other farmers that were kind of doing something similar, or was this really were you kind of the one of the first producers in the area?
Yeah, at that time, we were probably one of the first urban farms that were actually growing for profit and running a business. Obviously there's always community things and rented plots and those sorts of things. But I think we were one of the first to actually do what we're doing today.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so what was that in that first growing season like? I'm curious to hear more of what were you growing? Was it just a couple of field plots? And what was that process of getting those first customers?
Oh man, it's funny to look back and think where we started and where we've come today. Frankly, one big influence on me was Curtis Stone. So when we got rolling with the farm, he was still urban farming. He was still putting out his urban farming content. And so for my birthday present in November, before we started, I took his online course. And it was worth its weight in gold. It was all about production, but also all about business, which most farmers would probably agree that the growing is not the hard part. It's getting your product to the consumer and making money off what you're doing. So Curtis at that point was a huge influence on how we started the farm. So we essentially took his model and brought it to us. So in year 1, it was salad greens, baby roots, and tomatoes. Because my thought was, well, if he's successful doing it, why do I need to recreate the wheel? And so, that's how we started. Now things have changed and evolved based on what our customers want and what grows better in our region. But he was really kind of the foundation for how we started our farm.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of Curtis's work as well. So I got into this space just actually I took his microgreens course that he co-authored with Chris Thoreau and just started growing microgreens in the basement under grow lights and kind of got that itch from that standpoint. But I agree, his work in his book and in his course, I like how he kind of almost has that grading schedule, what's going to be most profitable, looking at successions, optimal spacing. And that was the first kind of aha for me because I think it's really easy to get sucked into the romance of regenerative agriculture and producing food. But the model of being a hobbyist grower as opposed to a commercial grower, 2 totally different worlds, I found.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I also started in the microgreen world too. I think that's a great way to just get your feet wet. And that's honestly how we made our first connections with our restaurants is I would take them a flat of microgreens and just explain to them what we were doing and introduce myself. Because anytime you connect with a chef and you bring them something, that's definitely going to give you a lot more clout for the future.
Absolutely. Yep. Agreed. Early challenges can come up often with startup growers, and being in the urban environment, I imagine that compliance, zoning laws, things like that. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I mean, each municipality has their own unique rules. So I can't talk to a grower, say in Denver, and know that, hey, this is what my advice would be in your local jurisdiction, but they're in central Iowa. What was that experience like?
So you're so spot on because every place is different. And that really makes it tough because our experience literally would be different across the street because across the street from our farm is city of Des Moines, but we're in an unincorporated Polk County. So, when I get local growers that ask me what they should do, it's like, I can give you my feedback from my experience, but you got to go to your planning and zoning and your people in your legislation to figure it out for sure. But whenever people ask us about challenges with urban farming, there's always pest issues, there's always soil problems or, how you want to manage it. But for us, top notch, our biggest issue is our local planning and zoning. And to make it short and sweet, we're growing in a residential area. And if we were just growing crops, it wouldn't be a problem. We could do whatever we wanted. But we have a commercial farm stand. So basically, we sell our product. People come to our property and we sell other products from other producers as well. So you can almost think of us as like a small, locally sourced grocery store. And that's where the conundrum comes about. Frankly, because we're this type of business that our county has never connected with or never had to regulate before. So they frankly don't exactly know how to regulate us. So we've navigated the waters together. It wasn't easy. We had some major startup hiccups that we've since worked through. But once again, we're still dealing with them to this day. So that's our biggest challenge.
Do you see that improving over time? You mean, is it more so just as they get more exposure to other urban growers and just hearing more case studies around the country of producers like yourself? I mean, do you see any indication? Because I have to think that has to just be one of the biggest ongoing headaches for small scale producers.
I would say I'm cautiously optimistic about there being some positive change. Like task force pop up all the time where, groups of officials, they want to learn more about urban farming. They want to understand our perspective. But from my experience, there's not an actual like follow through with those sorts of things. It's almost like the communities, the cities create these things to make them feel better. But we have yet to see some change from our local area that has actually made what we're doing easier. Actually, there's been some behind the scenes changes that have even made it more difficult for us. So as much as I'd love to say, yes, there's great support of what we're doing, it's hard to fully say that, unfortunately. Now, once again, other areas that may be different, we've met with the NRCS about some stormwater prevention projects, and they love what we're doing and they think that urban farming is awesome, but some of the things they want to do, we're not allowed to do. So, we're still working through a lot of government hurdles.
Take me back to those first growing seasons. One, specifically in terms of like your sales distribution channels, was it just starting with farmers market? Did you then, kind of build from there? And I guess even in addition to that, when you were in that launch stage, what was your market research process to identify, hey, we're either going to go farmers market, we're going to go CSA, we're going to go direct to consumer? What was that process like?
Yeah, so when I think back to year one, we did a CSA and we modified it. And it was called a salad subscription. It was basically based on the crops that we do grow, what we could provide for our consumers. So year one, it was like 12 members, basically like friends and family that lived in the neighborhood. To give you a little perspective, right now we're at 60 members. So we've scaled from that at the beginning. I also really found great value in local restaurants because, chefs that support the farm to table movement can really help boost your brand and your business. When you're at a high-end restaurant and you see your name on the menu, like one, that's a sense of pride, but two, it's also easy marketing for others in the community to see who you are. And then we did a local farmers market. It was in our community. It was a Tuesday night market. And frankly, that so much wasn't about the capital. It was more like socially, how can we introduce ourselves to the community and let people know what we're doing? So we did that local market for, it was 2 to 3 seasons. And we reached a point where financially it probably wasn't the best move for us to stay there, because as we all know, the work and time and effort you put into markets. And it was also a Tuesday night that took me away from my family. We also had our farm stand, which was our on-site store. And that was kind of the whole time we created this model, we thought, let's bring people to us, which is a lot easier than having to travel to, multiple markets in a week. So that was kind of our big picture, what we wanted to do. Now, the farm stand, what it was then to what it is now, has evolved quite a bit. We've diversified a lot more. We have lots of meat products. We work with bigger distributors. So we have more options for our consumers, which people love.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's great. And then the other thing that I really admire about the way that you are running the business is that just this collection of different things that you're doing. You have the farm stand to fork dinner, which I think has to be just like a rock star experience for your guests that attend that, and then you have the homestay as well. What was that process like? Thinking, I mean, because I have to imagine like that's pretty energy intensive when you're talking about hosting that, having a large number of people, bringing in the local chefs. When did you have that confidence that you were ready to go all in on that?
Yeah. So, and frankly, like when you look at all the different things we're doing in our business, we've come to the conclusion this season that it's too much. And next year this off season we'll really reassess, because I find myself being pulled in so many directions that it's hard for me to really, focus on what's most important and valuable with my time. Now, that being said, the farm stand to fork dinners are fun. They're profitable, so they're here to stay. So we launched that, I believe it was 3 seasons ago. And the big reason we wanted to do it is because we've created this beautiful farm and we want to be able to enjoy it with people. You get so busy in the hustle and bustle of checking your to-do list for farming, which never gets smaller. But when we host these events, it allows us to, 1, beautify the property, 2, take a deep breath, and 3, host people at our beautiful farm. So those are some of our favorite things that we do. It introduces us to new people in the community, because a lot of people that attend these dinners, because they are higher priced tickets, aren't necessarily our normal customers. A lot of times they're coming because of the chef. So our higher end chefs can bring us some new clientele as well. So those dinners have been so fun and we absolutely love them.
Well, I think it's an important piece of just the broader agri-tourism movement. And I know that's important to you, and I'm thrilled to seeing somebody in Central Iowa region doing that, because if you look at the average age of the American farmer, I mean, it's a white dude approaching the age 60 years old. And so what I really like about the whole urban and regenerative agriculture scene is that it's opening up in a completely new base of producers that's making it, the producer base like more inclusive, younger, more diverse. So I'm excited to see that that agritourism is helping to facilitate that.
No, totally agreed. And that's agritourism is a great opportunity for us since we are urban. We're so close to a high population of people. And a lot of people that live in an urban setting, especially with kids, they want their kids to be able to experience what a farm is and have a little understanding of their food. And rather than having to drive an hour on a gravel road, they can come to us in their community.
So when you first launched the farm, were kids part of the mix in your world at that point? Because that's the whole other thing, the balancing act of being the founder of a startup business.
Yeah, so we purchased the land in October and our son was born like 5 days later, our youngest son. So yeah, Lewis was just born when we bought the land. And then at that point, Walter was 2 and Oliver was 4. So yes, our kids have been a part of this operation. Now, that being said, a lot of people are like, oh, it's so great. You can just take your kids to work with you. And it's like, absolutely not. Like when you have kids at that age and you're trying to farm and, get the tasks done, like you can't be wrangling little kids around all day. So when I'm at the farm, my kids are at school, they're at daycare, that sort of thing. Yes, they're at the farm quite a bit and they're in the system of what we're doing, but when it's work time, they're not with me.
Totally get that. I mean, I like to have my kids out in the gardens with me, but a little kind of goes a long way when you actually have chores that you need to get done that are important.
Yeah, I mean, it's more like damage control than anything. Like, don't pick that green tomato, don't pull that, So rather than just getting things done.
I know that you have a couple of high tunnels on your property. Can you talk about that? Is that primarily just for season extension? Are you doing any overwintering production?
Yeah, so we have one, let's see, 30 by 72 high tunnel that we got through the NRCS Equip grant. And that, so we've had it for 4 years now. That has been early spring greens, summer tomatoes, and then winter greens. And that's been our rotation since we've had it. And it's worked great for us. So we're basically going to continue that until we face issues, whether it's disease or yield or production issues. So we basically will push the grow season until around Christmas time. Technically, we could go later in the winter with our greens, but frankly, I reach a point where I'm kind of ready for a break, a little time to just re-energize. And so that's kind of, and then we start planting again mid to late February in there. We also have 4 caterpillar tunnels from Farmer's Friend, and we just keep putting more up each year. I really enjoy growing in them. The main reason I like them is just for moisture control. You know, we can keep the water off and we can regulate that better. And let's see, this year it was all greens or roots. I didn't do any tomatoes or any trellising in there. And next year we're exploring adding more flowers to our operation. We added, real basic flowers this year, and they've been a huge success for us. So we're going to do just diversify and add more flowers for cut flowers next year.
And speaking on the topic of flowers, in terms of like attracting pollinators and just kind of building up this entire ecosystem, kind of how do you, are you incorporating, just different types of permaculture systems, kind of what's that process looking like to have, kind of that balancing act of one, the ecological, but also two, the production side of things?
Yeah, so we do have some permaculture things out there that have naturally progressed. So, for example, when we put up our high tunnel, we knew there'd be a lot of watershed, and what do we do with that water? So we created a swale to help divert the water, and we also have a water storage tank. It holds, I think, 1,500 gallons of water. So we're able to harvest our rainwater and then reuse it for crops. So that's been, it's great to have, but also realistically, when we need it the most, so this summer in July when we're in a drought, our water storage tank is empty as well too. So, it is nice to have, but when you really need it, it's probably dry anyway. And yes, pollinators are huge. We do a lot of landscaping on our property just to make it beautiful. And so a lot of those things that we plant are intentional when it comes to flowering and attracting pollinators and those options.
hmm This was my first year of raising native bees, and so that was an interesting experience just from that standpoint. And I kind of have that itch of continuing to build out that process with pollination.
Yeah, we did have bees for one season, but unfortunately our neighbors who we love and are really great at, she just was deathly afraid of bees. So for the sake of just keeping everyone happy, we removed the bees from our property, but we still have great pollination in the area.
That's good to hear. Do you have a favorite crop that you grow that's just like I really like that, whether it's like the flavor profile or just even the growing experience?
Lettuce is kind of our go-to thing. We're just known for our salad greens. And I've really found this love for new red fire lettuce. It is something that we're able to grow through the season. So mid-February through Christmas. It does well in the heat. It's actually kind of a cool crop because based on the stress that it gets, it can get more of a vibrant red to more of a green. And so the color and profile of it changes through the seasons. It is nice because we grow it as a head, which it can get large, or we can grow it as a cut and come again green. So I have been drawn to that quite a bit. Another thing I like about it is we get the pelleted seed for transplants, but we also get the non-pelleted seed just to direct seed it. So it's pretty versatile when it comes to greens. So that's kind of my gut, which one I've been really enjoying this season.
So are you able to get that into the ground right in the spring and then grow that even through the heat of the summer?
Yeah, so now we have different successions that we're using, but yes, that has been in the ground for us, yeah, through this whole growing season at this point.
That's great. And you're zone 5A, am I correct on that?
5B, yeah, like Des Moines, this little pocket of 5B, which I wouldn't be surprised if we get into 6 pretty soon.
Is there a crop that you wish you could grow, but you just can't, either because of the climate zone that you're in or it just doesn't make business sense to produce?
We've dropped cucumbers, which they're a crowd favorite, and I just love eating cucumbers. But the biggest problem that we found is it attracted so many cucumber beetles. And if you grow cucumbers, you know about the beetles. So yes, it caused issue to the cucumbers, but what really got me going was they started to go towards the lettuce. So, okay, go to the cucumbers, I'll be fine. But the second you start going after our biggest cash crop, that was when I got pretty frustrated. And so my thought was, well, if we don't grow their main food source, it'll help alleviate the problem, which it has. So we dropped cucumbers. We did not grow them this season, and we have not had cucumber beetle pressure at all.
Got it. What are the biggest pest pressures that you experience?
Hands down, aphids. Aphids, they are attracted to the greens, especially in the tunnel environment. We've been able to manage them as long as we're proactive. But yeah, they're our biggest pest, and deer. So, we're in this urban spot. So you're like, what, deer? But we have a plot of land that we rent across from our main plot. And it's a constant struggle. And we put up electric fencing this year, which helps, but they're still finding ways to get in. So each year it's like, okay, what can we do to the fence to help try to keep them out more?
On the topic of aphids, what's your current process for mitigating that?
One is scouting quite a bit, because obviously if you can find them before the population takes over, that's one of your best bets. So we will use ladybugs, but I have found that I'm always kind of like late to the game with the ladybugs, and then they're hard to actually source. And so, there's that sweet spot. So it's almost like trying to plan ahead would be a better idea. But we kind of use this rotation of safer soap to, if the aphids aren't too bad, safer soap will work. But you reach a point where you can't control them with just safer soap. So then we do a combo of safer soap and the Pyganic. And, being now we're not certified organic, but we do everything organically. And so I try not to use Pyganic a lot. Now, yes, it is certified organic, but still it's one of those stronger chemicals. And I know we can see some resistance as well, but those two, the safer soap and Pyganic, have worked for us so far.
Got it. I want to switch over to the topic of tools. What are some of your essential go-to tools? Are there any that you say like, hey, if I were to start a new farm tomorrow, these are the go-to essentials?
We find ourselves using stirrup hose and wheel hose quite a bit. They are just great for early weed control. And with the stirrup hose, I just like the different sizes, so the 2-inch, the 4-inch, the 6-inch, having a nice arsenal to work between crops, work in row. Those are tools that we rely on quite a bit. We also, I would put this in the tool category, but we use a lot of shade cloth and insect net. With us having summer greens production, we can never have enough shade. Whenever we transplant, we shade for about 2 weeks. And our practice is insect net over all of our direct seeded mustard greens, and that's to help with flea beetle population. So, and we actually do have a BCS, which the only time we used the BCS this year was to shape our beds, because we're very low till. So we're not super mechanized at our farm.
I know, soil health has to be a key component with the work that you're doing, and it's probably one of the most underrated topics. Just from just the community environment. When somebody they see a farm like yours and they see all the great produce in the environment, but it starts with that soil health. So when you have guests onto your farm and you start to talk with them about your growing process, is soil health part of that conversation?
It is, but a lot of times we go there if people bring it up, because a lot of people don't really care, unless you're talking to those people that actually grow. Instead, they're like, oh, look at that carrot. Can I pull it out of the ground? But yes, soil health is the first and foremost, most important thing of your farm. If you don't have healthy soil, then you're just fighting a losing battle. And we work with Ellen Polachek. I send her our soil samples at the end of, in about a month, come fall. And we get on a Zoom call and she basically tells me what to do and I do it. Because soil is one of those things, the more you learn, the less you know. And I will fully admit that I'm not an expert and I'm not spending my time geeking out into soil science. That's just not where I'm going. So having an expert like Ellen help me out is wonderful. And frankly, we're blessed that we started with great soil here in central Iowa. But that being said, we demand a lot from it and we're intensive. And I don't take that for granted.
So are you regular adding compost to the soil? I mean, like as you go through the successions, what's that process to keep that soil fertility at optimal levels?
Yeah. So for about the first 3 years, we would apply compost with every bed flip. That's before I connected with Ellen. Now, this past season, we have not applied any compost, which is weird. You know, you just feel like, well, aren't you supposed to do that? But based on our soil results, she said, one, it's going to be a lot more money. Two, it's obviously a lot more labor to lug around bags of compost. So this season, we have not applied any compost. We have used amendments from Midwest BioAg. So we have put other things on the soil. But zero compost application, crops are doing fantastic. I would assume that next year we'll get back on the compost train, but we'll see what Ellen says. So, you know, I think compost is great. But being urban, we don't have we can't really create our own, not enough of what we normally use. It's, like I said, expensive and laborious. So the fact that we kind of took a break this year I'm not complaining about it one bit.
Kind of freed things up. No, absolutely. Well, and that transitions to my next topic too, in terms of like, as your business has evolved from when you first started to now. Can you talk about just like the systems that you've implemented to run a commercial enterprise the way that you do, and the team that you use to support you in that effort?
Yeah. So this season, we have two full-time employees that are essentially working the field. And we have about 3/4 of an acre under cultivation. And I've actually been stepping away from the field quite a bit. So they've been here since April, and they pretty much know the operations and run that field gig. We also, because we have the retail aspect, we have employees that help work in there as well. So when we think about like the different systems that we have, there's a lot of different wheels turning. So like with the field operation, when I tell my crew to go transplant, bed 2 in zone 5, they now know like what that looks like. They know what the soil prep looks like. They know how to crop out beds. They know, how many rows to put in a bed and that sort of thing. But it took time to get us there. And then we have systems for the farm stand. So how do we set up? How do we manage the cash register? How do you close down at night? I found the more SOPs you have, the easier it is on me as the owner. But it's also hard to create those SOPs when you're in the hustle and bustle of the day. So it's almost like you have to time block time to do that. And since I've been in business for 6 years now, we've naturally kind of got those in place. But something that's unique for us is we just created a line of salad dressings that are doing really well and got picked up by a large scale grocer here. So now I'm shifting a lot of my farm focus to nurturing those wholesale accounts. And that has been very interesting, figuring that out as I go.
Can you talk about that? I mean, in terms of like, where your products are available now through and talk about some of those value added products that you're now producing.
Yeah, so we have a commercial kitchen at the farm. We put that in about 3 seasons ago. And I actually took the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business course a little over a year ago. And the growth opportunity I focused on was these salad dressings. And the reason being is because we're known for our salad greens. We have a commercial kitchen. It was a natural progression with the value add. And so I had like some foundational recipes. And then we have a chef that works in our kitchen that helps make weekly things for customers. I say, hey, we're long on tomatoes. He makes salsa, that sort of thing. So I went to him with our dressings and he did some tweaks. And it was great because he knew how to scale more. He knew like different tools that would make the dressings more shelf appropriate and so on. So we created these 3 different dressings. And then our biggest account we just picked up was Hy-Vee. So if you're in the Midwest, Hy-Vee grocers are, pretty well known. So we just picked up 120 stores in. We did a local virtual pitch, and they had a summit for local producers. So we were one of 12 that got picked up. So it's amazing, like super excited. But now this is this whole new world of CPG and how do you deal with wholesale accounts? And it's a whole new business that I'm navigating. So When I say there's so many enterprises to our farm, that's another example. Uh, the good thing about these dressings is there's opportunity to scale. And, with our farm, we have so many acres, we're urban, we're pretty landlocked. So we can only grow so much food. And we kind of know what our number is, what we should be in sales. But these dressings open up more opportunities to expand the business.
Hmm. And do you see that as that market continues to grow and you're looking to scale that, will the need for more land, or are you able to kind of work with either the land that you have or with other local producers that kind of come into your network to continue to grow the value added part of the portfolio?
I don't think that more land is what we need at this point. So a little thing that I should add with our salad dressings, we got to a point where we had too many orders coming in. So we now work with a co-packer. So we have someone locally, a manufacturer that makes all of our dressings at larger scale, palletizes them, and is able to distribute, which is great because we just didn't have the facilities in our kitchen to do that. But what I kind of envision the farm, I don't know if evolving is the right term, but we still have our core grow area. We still have our place that people come to congregate to enjoy the farm. But these products open up other opportunities to reach a larger audience in other states and beyond.
One thing I realized, like as I just kind of, within my realm of being just like a small scale grower, I had a brief period of time where I was a commercial grower in an indoor vertical farm here in Omaha, Nebraska, and I quickly realized the more I learn about this whole space, the more I realize how little I know. What's your go-to set of resources just to keep learning within this space?
Love podcasts. Um, I find podcasts are easier to digest information than reading because you can listen to a podcast while you're in the field, or while you can passively take in content while you're doing other activities as well. So love podcasts. I also, like I mentioned, I took the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business course. That was amazing. And I highly recommend people looking into it. It's free and they offer them in different states around the US. So I like education. I like physically going to a classroom where you devote that time to learning. I've taken something called Venture School through the University of Iowa. So I really thrive and appreciate when you are devoting your time to learning a specific content. Uh, I love farm conferences. Unfortunately, they've been so disrupted with COVID. I didn't do really the virtual ones last year because the most exciting thing I get from the conferences are the peer-to-peer interaction and engagement. So I'm hopeful that they may happen this winter. But, peers. And one thing that I really think is valuable too is surrounding yourself with people that are successful. And it doesn't have to be in farming, but when you are around people that are doing good things and that have that positive energy, you can learn a lot from them as well.
Hmm. You mentioned, the pandemic. So when that hit in early 2020, what was your mindset in the process of adapting the business?
Oh God, the mindset was just a bunch of jumbled mess. Like, what in the world do we do? Just like everyone else. Because it's like, okay, you got the business, you got your kids, you got your family, all these, so many conundrums going on. But we were blessed that we were able to change up our business really quickly. So we took our farm stand and switched it all online. And so it was online sales with contactless pickup at the farm every Saturday. So people would come in, they'd pull into our parking lot, they'd hold up a sign with their name, we'd have their order filled, put it in the trunk, they'd leave. It somehow worked amazingly, and we had our best sales year last year. Now this year we're doing even better, but the fact that we were able to shift the business real quickly and also reach our customers and let them know was very important because we have I find my biggest marketing value is our newsletter. And we've got about roughly 3,000 people on our newsletter, and it's about like a 40% open rate. But when we were able to directly reach people and say, hey, here's the new model, it kind of hit the ground running. Yes, there were hiccups, but people got it and understood.
To the young people out there that are considering a career path in any area of regenerative agriculture or local food production, what's your message to somebody that's giving this a serious thought and thinking that maybe I don't need the conventional 9 to 5, and also too now that there's more academic programs that are kind of coming into this space. What's your advice to those people out there?
Oh, it's like, where do I begin? One, make sure that it's what you want to do. Like, if it's a passion of yours, go for it. But realize that it's a lifestyle, and summers are crazy, and there's never enough hours in the day, and it's hot and it's hard and you're tired. But then winters, you get to slow down and you get to regroup and just realize that there's the ebb and the flow of the seasons. Now, obviously, for where we are, if you're in a different climate, that might be different. But there's huge ups and there's huge downs. And I also think it's important to note that, yes, you can make money doing this, but it's hard. Like, you got to slang, you got to hustle. And so you have to be in for the grind. And to kind of piggyback on that, make sure you're keeping good books and keeping good records. It took me 4 years to actually hire a bookkeeper, and it was like, why didn't I do this sooner? Those things really add value to your business, because if you don't know where the money's going or what is bringing you value, how do you make the decisions in your business? So those are some key things I think of.
I love everything that you just shared there. Obviously, your success, it continues to compound. If we kind of look out, say 3 to 5 years, what does Dogpatch Urban Gardens look like to you then?
Good question. So I really think there'll be a stronger value placed on the products that we're creating. I mentioned our 3 salad dressings. We also make elderberry syrup, which our elderberry syrup right now is refrigerated, and we're working in labs to get it shelf stable. And when we can get it shelf stable, that opens up more wholesale opportunities. So I think the CPG world is something that we can grow into because our brand has a very compelling story. It's a foundational in an urban farm environment. So that's something I foresee growing. We have a potential to maybe take on some more property and partner with another local agency. This is all kind of something new, but we're looking into adding some greenhouses to the property for some big spring plant sales, which I would be very excited about that opportunity. So it's kind of hard to say where we'll be in 3 to 5 years because there's a lot of variables that we're working through right now.
Well, I'm excited to watch, observe, and be a customer through that entire experience. So, Jenny, this has been an absolute joy.
In 3 to 5 years, my kids may be old enough that they can actually be working for me as well, too.
There you go. And you can pay them in edible wages.
That's right. That's right.
Great. All right. Well, this has been a joy. Your website, dogpatchurbangardens.com. We'll link to that in the show notes along with all of your social media handles. So that way audience members can follow along, subscribe to the newsletter, check out the products with your online farm store. So Jenny, what I want to do is, if you could take us out with let's call it a sensory tour of one of your favorite moments or spots on the farm. What are we seeing? What are the sights, the sounds, the smells? I'm curious to hear the details.
Okay, sensory tour. All right, so you're going to be experiencing one of our farm to table dinners. So in the back, in our kitchen, you've got an amazing chef that's preparing all farm fresh food based on what's seasonal. And then you navigate through our farm stand out to our green space where we have either 7 individually white tablecloth tables or one long, huge table with beautiful floral arrangements, the backdrop of a high tunnel that's booming with tomatoes, tons of people eating, drinking, and enjoying each other's company with the backdrop of an urban farm.
Love it. Well, we'll just leave it right there. Jenny Quiner, Dogpatch Urban Gardens. Check her out, everybody. Thanks for listening. Take care.
Thank you so much.